Once your tree is dry, or mostly dry, mine's not completely dry, I've still got some wet spots on here, but that's okay. It's not gonna hurt anything. I'm going to get a flat, coarse, stiff bristled brush. I didn't say horse, I said coarse. But any kind of bristle that's got a very coarse feel and look to it. These tend to work best. If you don't have one of these, you can use a flat brush or a detail brush too. I just prefer to use one of these because I like the way the paint goes on with these. So I'm just going to pick a smaller one. And the purpose of this, what we're going to do with this brush is we are going to dip into some white paint, just a small amount of white, and we're going to dry brush in some highlights on this tree. And not just highlights, but it's also going to help give the wood grain, the texture to the tree. And so I've still got space on this old dirty plate here, so I'm going to put just straight white. Put some straight white right here. You don't need a whole lot of white. Like I said, you're just going to be putting the paint in the tips of the bristles. And now I'm going to start on the left side and work my way to the right because I'm right-handed. So if I start over here, I'm going to be sticking my hand in the paint. So that light is really bright. So I've just got a little bit of paint right in the bristles, just in the ends. Sometimes I'll even brush some of the excess off. We want it to be kind of dry. We don't want, I know I always say don't let the paint dry in the bristles. That's not what I mean. I just mean you don't want a lot of wet paint in the bristles. And now I'm going to pick, start right down here. And see, I'm just kind of scrubbing that color in. It's going to have a real textured look to it as you go. And make sure you stay, if you want the light source for your painting to be on this side, make sure that all of your highlights are on this side of your branches. If you want it to be on the other side, keep it on the other side of your branches. But you want to make it so that your light source is pretty much coming from the same direction. So mine's coming from the left, so I'm going to try and keep all of my white highlights on the left side of my branches and my tree trunk. Actually, it's going to end up throughout the tree trunk just for texture, but all we're doing is brushing in. I'm just, when I reload, just tap a little bit of paint into the tip of the bristles. Now this is not an exact science. It's going to be a little bit, you're going to end up with white paint outside of the branches, and that is fine. Like I said, we're going to have flowers through here. It's quite all right if you make a mistake. You can always cover it up with a clump of flowers. Now if your paint's not your brown paint underneath is not all the way dry, that's okay if it mixes with the white and makes kind of a light brown color. That's totally fine. That's not hurting anything. Now I've got a really big wet patch right here, so I'm going to try and not get into that too much until it dries a little more. So I'm going to work mostly on these outside branches. And now if you get right here, these two cross. One thing I like to try to do is try to keep in mind what's in front and what's behind. Now I imagine this one is probably behind, the one that goes across this way is probably behind the one that comes up this way in my mind. It really doesn't matter, you could pick either one. But if this one's in front in mine, I'm going to come through and I'm going to run this white highlight straight down right through there. And then for the highlight on this one that goes across, I'm going to skip that right there. I'm going to start again right here. So it leaves a blank spot right there on the one that's behind and you go straight through on the one that's in front. That will help give the illusion that this one's in front of that one. And now see this one, I've already gone over with the other branch, so he's going to go behind. So that's one thing you just kind of got to try to keep in mind while you're painting is what's in front, what's behind. Because sometimes when you start getting real crazy with the highlights and you're not paying attention, you end up with some really weird physics-defying things happening. So I'm sure we've all at least seen or done a painting where stuff doesn't quite line up the way it would in the natural world. That's okay. I mean, sometimes it's a mistake, sometimes it's intentional, but I've seen paintings where someone has done a water glass and they accidentally painted it so that the line that you see through the water showed up on the outside of the glass instead of like through it, and kind of throws off the whole perspective of the painting when you do that. So it's not the end of the world, especially with this, because we are going to have flowers all over it. So it's just something to keep in mind, something to practice with, especially if this is something you want to really continue doing a lot of painting. That's one of those things that you tend to pick up as you go. Now, if you want to have some branches that are really like twisted looking, what you can do is take these highlights and run them up in kind of diagonal lines around the branch there, and that will give it kind of a gnarled, twisted look. So depending on how twisted you want your tree to be, you want just a regular nice tree, then that's fine too. So you can touch up your highlights or add a few more. Now I gotta try and put some highlights in here along my trunk. And this still hasn't dried all the way yet, so I will need a little bit more paint on my bristles than I have been using. Simply because if I use too little paint, what I'm going to end up doing is scratching off the brown paint that's there, and you're just going to see background color. So we'll just put some of these highlights in here. And there's really, I don't have a whole lot of rhyme or reason to this. I'm just putting in some highlight. Now if you get some that's too bright, once your brush has picked up some of this, like mine picked up some of that dark brown color, I can go over top of that, right over top of that bright white. It tones it down a little bit. But yeah, that wet brown will mix with my white color. And so we're just adding some bark texture, some wood texture to this. So what we are going to work on now is we can draw in our little swing right here. So you'll need your detail brush, and then you will need some brown. Now I've still got some wet dark brown on this plate, so what I might do is I might just use that color with a little bit of extra brown in it. So it'll be a little bit lighter of a brown color. So got straight brown, I'm just gonna add it to it. That's all I'm gonna do. Oop, and I just stuck my finger in the paint. It happens. Okay, and I'm gonna mix this up. It's still a dark brown color, it's just gonna be slightly lighter than the tree color. And one thing you can do, we're going to be working with thin lines. So I'm gonna add some water to that. Dip right into the rinse water. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try not to get in front of the camera and block you out while I'm doing this. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put, whoop, and I stuck my hand right in the wet paint of the tree. Watch out for the tree if it's still wet. I'm gonna put a little rope here and a little rope here. I just have it curving around the branch as though it's tied to the branch. So a couple of little, almost like a C, a letter C. And then what I'm going to do, which is really going to be tricky in this position here, I'm trying to do a straight line down. Now, if you want some assistance with getting that line straight, you can use a long-handled brush or a ruler or a piece of paper or whatever it may be. And you can hold this up and put, you know, paint along it, make sure it's straight first, hey? And you can paint a line down. Now you can take this as low or as high as you want, but keep in mind, if you're gonna put the cat on it, make sure the cat can actually get to the swing. They can jump pretty high, but I don't think you can jump that high. So anyway, I'm gonna bring our swing down. Another good thing to do here too is once you've got your ropes in, take a step back and look at your painting. Because sometimes when you step back, you realize that you've got something crooked. I think mine look all right. Now we're gonna do the same color. I'm not gonna adjust anything. Same color we can put, or you know what? If you want to put a little more brown in, or more of the dark, old dark color, you can do that. If you want to use the same color, you can use the same color. I think in my original one that I did of this, I used the same color, but what the heck. And we'll just put a little flat seat across. Nothing fancy. You can hear my hand sticking to that right there. It's still a little tacky there. And now what I'm gonna do, real quick, I'm gonna rinse that out just a little bit. And I'm not gonna dry it off, but I am going to dip a little bit into this white. So I've got watered down white. I have not dried off my brush. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of highlight to the left side of this rope. Now if you want to get real fancy and make the rope braided and all that, you can use the white and put the little braid lines in it, but I'm not feeling that ambitious today, so if you want to do that though, go for it, man. Alright, a little highlight across the top. There we go. Got ourselves a nice little swing there. If you want to continue doing paintings with me, hit that subscribe button and you can keep up with me. Thanks.